Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're getting into the topic of how our longer lifespans in general versus nature, our natural lifespans of, say, if we were wild animals, is so long that how it affects the way our bonds are. Because I definitely think that we're in a state right now of where it's so much more complicated in knowing how human bonds and human interactions are supposed to go past the age of, say, 50 or 60 years old, considering that, there's a lot more people now who don't have those family bonds. So it's kind of unpredictable on where you're supposed to go from that. So we're going to jump into the topic. So as I started initially, people are not meant to live very long in terms of lifespans from a nature perspective. If we lived in the wild, we'd have faced disease, we would have to face predators, we'd have to face all that. We probably wouldn't live past the age of like 40 years old, let alone 60 would probably be considered ultra old. And so generally speaking, how your lifestyle would be at an older age gets more complicated. Now, we generally, even in nature, always had the idea of building bonds, friendships, relationships, whatever the case is, for the purpose of like tribe building, or like building a circle of people who are able to help each other, network, and this and that at a young, at a certain point in time inside your life. So that way that the people around you are a benefit to your life. And when it comes to things like that, and when it comes to things like relationships and this and that, and when you do that at a young age, it makes sense, because as you continue past the age where you will say wouldn't be alive anymore from a nature standpoint, past 60, and it's like, well, what do I do past this point? It's easy to continue on autopilot in that same way, because you're like, well, I already have my spouse, I already have my friends, I already have my family. Let me just keep doing what I'm doing because it feels comfortable and there's nothing wrong with it and it's healthy, and you can just keep doing that. The problem now is that in nature, you wouldn't normally have people without a tribe living so long, and they would often die out quicker. But now in our society now, modern times, modern living, you have people who are alive from 40 by themselves, 50 by themselves, 60 by themselves. And it gets to a point where they're so detached from a group, from a little tribe, their own tribe that they form, that they almost don't know what to do with themselves. And I think it's starting to become very complicated in how to live your life past a certain age, because it becomes foreign, especially now that we're in an age where everyone's a lot more isolated because social media, because of this and that. People, for example, even the way they live, where they live, you could have family members, you grow up in one town, they'll move into a whole nother state 3, 4, 5 hours away, and you never see them again. This is your tribe. This is your family. This is your tribe. Whether they're friends or whether they're family, they're still part of your tribe. And now they're living on the other side of the US, and you're like, I don't even see them anymore. You barely even talk on the phone. That in itself would have been something that didn't make sense many years back. And now we do this more often now, where we're separating ourselves from the bonds that we made originally to get us by in life. And so it creates a very complicated dynamic as you get older, because now you don't have that network, that tribe that takes care of the elders. Just like we see in movies and we see in depictions of nature, where the elders in a tribe, whether that's even like just another mammal, say lions or even gorillas, whatever, the elders, they might be at the bottom of the pecking order in some, groups, but nonetheless, and in humans, it's kind of the same thing, to be honest with you. But nonetheless, they would at least still be there. So the elders would be there watching at family gatherings, sitting in the lazy boy chair or the couch, watching their grandkids and their grandkids and blah, blah. You know what I mean? You get the idea, and all that, and everyone's still there. And so they're taken care of. They may not be the highest priority in terms of making sure that they're living the life of luxury, but they're always made sure to be watched after. People check up on them. They're part of the tribe. They're part of the pack. With people being more secluded now and trying to find their way after the fact, that extension of life that we have now, which was made less complicated by continuing having bonds and transitioning over to, okay, now we can live to 80, 90 years old. But what does that look like when we have our traditional bonds and tribe building? Well, it made sense. When we don't have that anymore, living that long doesn't make sense anymore, because you can't really maintain yourself anymore. Not only that, but it's just like, even mentally, it's not healthy. And now people start struggling because they don't understand that if you don't build those bonds early and have that set up, by the time they hit like 40, 50 years old, and people are by themselves and they're single and this and that, and they don't have their little tribe, their friendships are fake. It becomes where, when you're out there alone like that, it's scary now and it's unhealthy, and a lot of people don't know what to do with themselves. And I had mentioned in a previous video how people sometimes are gravitating towards pets, and they have pets because they don't know what to do with themselves, and they bond with pets as opposed to having their tribe. And so another issue that's happening also in this concept of people being scared because they didn't try to build these bonds early, and now they're living longer and they realize, wait a minute, I'm alone, and I didn't know that I was going to be alone at 40 or 50 years old, and now I'm alone. I didn't put in the work. What they're trying to do now is double back around to now try to be picked up. So they're trying to form these bonds now, but the problem is, bonds are for building and for a community to be able to thrive when that community is new. In a sense, like if you're like 20 years old and you have friends that you knew since you were like teenage years, that's the beginning of your bonds. From that point on, you start looking for a partner, you're beginning the bond. You guys are forming for this community to pick each other up when you guys have nothing. You form these bonds and all. The problem is, when you get like 40 now, people are trying to now form bonds, but the issue becomes now is, bonds were never meant to pick other people up or pick up the fallen, or pick up, old friends and, friends who are looking at you as a pick-me-up, or do not contribute to the bond that you have. So that's starting to happen now, and it's becoming rampant and chaotic, where because that, you see this in the dating world, but you also see it in the friendship world. You see in the dating world where a person will say, I need somebody who does this, who does that. They make money, they hold their own, they're this and that, blah, blah, this and that, because they're looking for someone to take care of them. But in the building phase of being like, say, below 20 years old, or around maybe mid to low 20s, both people come to the table with nothing, and you're building, part of the tribe building, part of the community building. But when you're 40, or we'll say 35 and up, if you don't have already for yourself, that's a problem. It's a problem because that means that in society, you failed in society, and other people who've already established themselves should not and will not be looking to pick you up. And so if you're looking for that, it's a problem. This extends not only just for the dating world, but it also extends to friendships. You have some people who are looking for friends that they can get with, who'll be like, yo, that guy, that person makes money, and maybe I could get around them and they can help me up and they can help me. It's like, no, you're not an asset to that person. You are a liability to them now. And if you came into their life when both of you had nothing, it'd be one thing. But the fact that you didn't try to make those bonds then, and now you're trying to make them now, creates a problem, because nobody at that stage in the game, you should have already been, like I said, people aren't meant to be alive that long. So in a nature standpoint, so now that we're alive longer, you have to have all your stuff together sooner, because, or I won't say sooner, but you have to have it together by that certain point of time, because now you don't die at 40, not necessarily, off old age, you aren't going to die at 40. So now you have to actually have your resources ready so you can live till 80 or 90 or 100 years old. Whereas in the days of nature, in the concept of nature, you would probably, 40 is considered an old life. So you didn't have to have that much by that point in time, from a nature standpoint. And I'm not saying that we necessarily were living that life anytime recently, but just from a nature standpoint, if you take a tribe of lions, or you take whatever, or gorillas, whatever, you would know that like you aren't meant to live that long. So you don't have to have that much. Life is short in the ways of nature. So the requirement is to get in, have what you have, enjoy it, and then that's it. But now in our civilized human society, we live so long that you have to plan for longer than just making it to 40. And a lot of people legit are not even planning for that. I know that might seem like a concept that makes no sense, or it should be common sense, I should better say, where it's like, well, of course, they know they're not going to live just to 40. Most people are living way longer than that. So yeah, duh. But guess what? Most people are not living their life prepared for that time. Because if they were, they would be able to hold down a family, almost ready to retire or whatever the case is at 40, 45, 50. You aren't at that point where you're like scared, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Oh my God, I'm gonna have to keep working until I'm 70 years old, 80 years old. I don't know what I'm gonna do. That's crazy. So with that being said, this also goes back to a video that I posted not that long ago as well, that had stated about people making friends when they're young and how important it is to make friends when you're young, and how when you're older, people are looking to use you. This falls into the same topic because as people get older and they live longer and they didn't put in that work, now they're scrambling to find someone to pick them up. And tribe building and pair bonding and all that other kind of stuff should not be happening as much at 35 and up, because, or specifically I'll say 40 and up, because at that point you should already have something brought to the table. Now, if you are just networking with people already at your level, that's understandable. You have good resources, other people have good resources, you're trying to grow even larger, that makes sense. But no one's looking to pick anyone up who is not also at their level, which is why, like I said, it's very important for people to establish those bonds early on, because you're gonna have a lot of vultures out there who are looking to pick up people, to grab onto people later on in life. Just a little food for thought, connecting the concept of the way people are living hand in hand with the fact that life is a lot longer now than what nature suspected, and being ready for that longer life that nature has in store for you. I'm gonna then add on to that something that I wasn't even planning on mentioning, but I'm going to now. Imagine 100 years from now, or maybe 200 years from now, we start getting to the point where we can extend life to, let's say hypothetically, 150 years old. Who's ready for that? You know what I mean? Think about that and how that might just twist your brain around upside down. We normally say to ourselves, okay, at, this age, somewhere between like 50 and 70, we're trying to retire, and people are like, whatever, even though I think 70 years old of retirement is a little too far along the tooth, but that's a whole nother side topic. If we say 50 to 70 is where we're retiring, and then beyond that, it's, we plan that we're not going to live that much longer than that, maybe 80 years old, 90 years old, whatever the case is. But now imagine you've got an additional 70 years of living to go past 90. What are you doing? What's the plan there? You know what I mean? If you aren't ready already, what's happening then? Now you're just going to live that much longer of just suffering. You know what's going to happen? People who aren't ready are now going to instill that suffering on others. And that's essentially what you already have going on, but it will be magnified if in 200 years from now, we're able to expand life to an additional 50 years on top of what we normally live. So a little bit of food for thought, but just connecting the concept of tribe building with lifespan. As always, you guys comment down below. You guys take care, be safe, like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.